This happened about 12 years ago, back when I was in my mid-20s, and thought moving in with a girl after just 8 months of dating was a great idea. We were both stuck in crappy home situations. We had enough money between us to afford a decent apartment, and we figured, why not? It made sense at the time. For the first few months, things were great. We settled into a routine, got comfortable, and I actually started believing this was going to be something long term. But then, things started getting off. It was little things at first. Stuff you could brush off if you were not looking too hard. She suddenly became super attached to her phone, carrying it everywhere like it was glued to her hand. She even slept with it in her pocket. I mean, really? Who the hell does that? If I so much as glanced at it, she would lock the screen like she was guarding nuclear codes. And then, there was the weird shift in how she treated me. I worked overnight shifts while she had a regular day job, so most days, we only got a few hours together. But when I was heading out the door, she would barely acknowledge me. No. Have a good night. No kiss goodbye, just cold and distant. I had tons of downtime at work, so I would text her, try to chat, but she would give me dry, half-assed responses or ignore me altogether. It felt wrong. I had been through something like this before, and my gut was screaming at me. I ignored it at first, trying to tell myself I was just being paranoid. But the feeling would not go away. So I started investigating. She used my computer all the time since she did not have her own, and I knew she chatted online a lot. That was my in. I installed a different messenger program, something she would not recognize. I think it was Pigeon because I was using Ubuntu back then. The best part? It saved chat logs automatically. And she had no idea. I was about to find out exactly what she was hiding. So at first, I did not have concrete proof that she had physically cheated, but what I did know was that she was flirting hard with other guys. Like, embarrassingly obvious, over-the-top flirting. Not just a little playful banter, but full-on trying to make guys feel like they had a chance with her. It was all in the logs, every message, every giggly little interaction. The thing is, I tried to convince myself that maybe it was just flirting. That maybe she just liked the attention, but would never actually cross the line. But deep down, I knew better. Then came the night that changed everything. I was at work, pulling another overnight shift, when I mentioned my suspicions to my boss. It was around midnight, and we had a solid 2 hours before we actually had to do anything. So he looked at me and said, "Why don't you just drive home and see if she's there?" That bad feeling in my gut turned into a full-on alarm. I did not even hesitate. I grabbed my keys and left. I had a sickening feeling I already knew what I was about to find. And sure enough, she was not home. I stared at the empty apartment for a second, took a deep breath, and texted her. "Hey, where are you?" A few seconds later, she responded, "In the living room watching TV." I blinked. Oh, really? Because I was literally standing in the living room at that exact moment, and unless I had suddenly stepped into some kind of alternate reality, she was not there. So I replied, "Oh shit! I think I'm in another dimension because I'm in the living room." That is when she instantly backpedaled. She scrambled to change her story, suddenly claiming she was actually at her friend's house. A guy friend. A guy I knew had a thing for her. A guy she knew had a thing for her. Hell, she had a thing for him too. And she expected me to believe she was just innocently hanging out with him at nearly 1 a.m.? Yeah, okay. But the real kicker came about a week later. That was the night that ripped away any doubt I had left. She went to a party with her friends, and I figured, whatever. I was not thrilled about it, but I was not going to be the insecure boyfriend who freaked out over every little thing. So I let it go. But then she did not come home. The next morning, I checked Facebook, And guess what? The party was over. All her friends were online, posting about how crazy the night had been, sharing stories and tagging each other. And yet, she was nowhere to be found. She did not walk through the door until much later. And when she did, she was acting way too sweet. Overly affectionate, giggling, touching me, being all extra in a way that just screamed, I did something bad, and I'm trying to make up for it before you figure it out. And that was when it truly hit me. The way I knew something was wrong, the way my body instinctively recognized her guilt before my mind could fully process it, that was the saddest part of all. And here it is, the ending you have been waiting for. That same day, our internet was acting up, so the charter guy was at our apartment working on it. I was sitting there, barely paying attention, my mind still stuck on the past week, her lies, the party, the way she had been acting. And then, fate handed me the opportunity one had been waiting for. She got up to give the dog a bath, and she left her phone on the counter. She never did that. It sat there, screen dark, taunting me. I stared at it, my heart pounding. I knew I had a choice. I could leave it alone, pretend I did not see it, keep living in this twisted limbo where I knew something was wrong, but had no undeniable proof. Or I could look. I did not hesitate. I picked up the phone, unlocked it, and went straight to her messages. And the very first one I saw hit me like a freight train. Did you like it when I was on top? My stomach lurched. My vision blurred. That was her favorite position. She had sent that message to some guy I did not even recognize. I forced myself to keep scrolling, hand shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Next time we'll use toys. Next time. Next time. So not only had she cheated, but she had every intention of doing it again. She had plans. She had fantasies. She was already thinking about the next time. I snapped. I had suspected. I had investigated. I had seen the signs. But nothing could have prepared me for the final confirmation, the punch in the gut that came with seeing it spelled out so clearly. There was no more maybe. No more what if. The rage hit me like an explosion. I looked at the charter guy, who was still messing around with our internet, completely oblivious to the apocalypse about to unfold in my living room. I pointed at the door and said, "Dude, you gotta go. I don't even care about the internet anymore. I just found out this bitch cheated on me." His eyes went wide. He nodded and, without missing a beat, said, "Yep. Later." And just like that, he grabbed his stuff and dipped. Smart man. The second the door clicked shut, I lost my goddamn mind. To this day, I do not remember everything that happened. I remember yelling, a lot of yelling. I remember her standing there, stunned at first, then furious that I had dared to go through her phone. As if I was the villain in this scenario. Oh hell no. That was not going to fly. What I do remember, crystal clear, was standing there, gripping her phone, my voice dripping with venom as I shouted, "So next time you're gonna use toys, huh?" She barely had time to react before I stormed over to the drawer where she kept her stash. She had a little collection, 3, maybe 4, and I grabbed every last one of them like I was carrying out a goddamn exorcism. Without hesitation, I marched straight to the sliding door, stepped onto our second-story balcony, and launched them into the open field behind our apartment. They soared through the air like cursed relics being cast into the abyss, disappearing into the grass and dirt below. For a split second, everything was silent. Then I turned back, my fists clenched at my sides. The only reason I did not throw her off next was because I still had some shred of self-control left. Instead, I stormed out, barely resisting the urge to slam the door behind me, and went straight to my car. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to slow my breathing so I did not peel out of the parking lot like a man possessed. And that is when it happened. As I sat there, jaw tight, pulse pounding, I watched through the windshield as she walked out onto the grass, glancing around nervously. And then she started searching. She was out there, in broad daylight, wandering through the open field, scanning the ground like she had lost her damn keys. One by one, she bent down and picked up each of her dildos, completely exposed to every single one of our neighbors. And oh, they were watching. Some stood outside their apartments, pretending to be on their phones, but definitely looking. A guy smoking on his balcony had the best view in the house. An older couple taking a walk paused, whispering to each other as she frantically scooped up her silicone shame. At the time, I was too angry to find it funny. My entire life had just detonated in my face. I was not exactly in the mood to appreciate the comedy of the situation. But now, every time I think about it, I lose it. The image of her out there, desperately collecting her scattered dildos while our neighbors side-eyed her, that alone made the whole disaster almost worth it. Sorry for the long rant, but I had to share. TLDR, found out my girlfriend cheated, threw her dildos off the second-story balcony, and got to witness her do a very public scavenger hunt for them.